Okay, welcome everyone to this webinar on building communication skills to boost employability. So we're going to take a look at what these are. They're also known as human skills, soft skills, interpersonal skills, or transferable skills. Why are they called transferable? Well, they are skills that are different than the ones needed for a specific profession. They are used in all professions, but they're not the one you need as an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. They can be used in a variety of jobs, and they can be taken with you from position to position in one company or to another company. They are also high on the list in HR departments when they are looking for new employees. So why teach them? Well, it's not just HR departments that want these. International bodies such as OECD, British Council, Nesta, and so on are all looking at the future of employability skills. And in addition, governments such as this report from Turkey are having a look at what they need to do in their own education systems to prepare students for the future, for the world, for the vision of looking ahead. What's going to happen around the world for those studying now, and what can they find? And we realize that communication is vital. This is what prepares students for the workplace, and the businesses want students not only who have English skills, who can use tenses correctly or grammar, but can get their message across. That's what they need. So if you're interested, you can have a look at the OECD, which provides an interactive online tool that lets you look per country at the skills required by specific careers. Okay, but what about the business English teachers? Well, how many of us come from business? Some may have worked in business, but it may be a very specific job. Some may have not worked in business at all, came from general English. Classes, of course, are very different. We need things that are flexible. We need to be able to provide different ideas for different students, be able to change what we're doing in class to suit our students or to suit the subject matter. And we're preparing students for a wide variety of fields in many cases, unless we're actually teaching an in-company course. And on top of that, people who hire today, the HR departments, they want people to get into the job and start to work. This saves them money. They don't need to do lots and lots of extra on-the-job training. They expect people to be what we call job ready, which of course is a challenge for us. And what goes on in the classroom? Well, of course we have mixed ability classes and mixed levels. And in business English, it's not just mixed ability of whether they're B1, B2, C1, and so on. We also have mixed abilities and levels of their knowledge of business in general. Some may have done work placement, so they may have more of an idea. Some may not have done any work at all. Some may have worked in one field and are changing fields. Others may have come back to school. Sometimes they don't even know for sure what they want to do in future. So the needs are very, very different. In addition, we want to find material that engages them, is relevant, and appeals to them. So we certainly have certain things we need to look at as business English teachers. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we actually build communication skills? Is this something we can do? Is someone a good communicator or not a good communicator? Can we teach them how to do this? Well, yes, there are certain things we can certainly do to help them. And these are some ways that we can do that. We can actually work on these skills. That can be done, of course, while we're teaching, but we can specifically take a skill and practice it. We need to focus on many of them and practice them in different ways, not just one specific format. And we can do that through up-to-date videos, having them analyze videos, through different kinds of listening comprehension. In this case, studying or looking at two different options of how to do something Is this better or is this better? Using authentic context, things that really relate to the workplace, and then using the language that is built up through skill-specific practice. So the communication skills that we chose for this particular webinar are building rapport, extremely important. It's probably the #1 basis for anyone working in business. When we have rapport, we can do so many more things, and if we don't have it, teamwork, which is something that all HR people ask for. It doesn't matter what the job is. They want people to be able to work together. Influencing, which is quite important today. There are many articles on how this seems to be a forgotten skill. And being able to convince others to do something and to have win-win situations is vital. Making decisions. We often say this to someone when we're trying to decide. Make an executive decision. Decide, which is the way we move things forward. And then, of course, building those relationships that last for many, many years. This is all part of business and how to get things done. So the first thing we're going to look at is building rapport. And if you have a look at this definition of what rapport is, I'm going to read it aloud. Building rapport is about developing a shared understanding with another person or group of people that facilitates and improves communication. So if you can just write into the box some examples of spoken and non-spoken or verbal, non-verbal techniques for building rapport with new students or new colleagues. If anyone has any ideas, then I'll give you some of mine. Okay, well, some of the ideas I have: verbally, obviously asking questions that relate to what the person said. Repeating what someone says, saying, oh, you mentioned ... and so on. Agreeing with them, well, very good idea. Making positive sounds to show that you're interested. Oh, okay. Or even words like, oh, interesting. Using the person's name. Using the right kind of humor. Here you need to have a good idea of what works in a culture and with that person. Not interrupting them. And finding something in common. Saying, oh, you live there.
I want to have some answers as well from suggestions from the audience.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Listening is key. Non-verbal, looking at people in their eyes, being honest.
Okay.
Smiling as well.
Yes.
Paying attention to what's being said.
Yes.
Starting with introducing yourself and then making different sorts of conversations.
Okay.
And then another we have several others, but looking into people's eyes while they're addressing you.
Yes. Yes, I had that as well. Facing the person you're speaking to and looking in their eyes, but not too intensely. Smiling, open body language, and also matching body language is very powerful in nonverbal communication. Okay, so I can go on to the next, I believe. Okay, so we're going to talk about this video because we're going to watch some after this. This begins with a video which is about graduate trainees getting to know each other. And they're talking about a new employee, Beata, and they discuss how to prepare for this meeting. And in this video, Daniel says about Beata that she sounded very professional on the phone. She's a little older, she has experience. Jessica is the CEO of the company, and she says that she likes people who are not overly confident, which is a very interesting way to look at things. What we find out about Alex is he's been there for a year, and he tries to then build rapport with Beata when she arrives by making a joke. And this is always something we're careful about. We never know, does somebody understand the joke or not? But as long as it's explained and everyone can laugh together, it is certainly a way to establish rapport. So after this, we then go to two options. We have two videos. In the first one, Beata tries to build rapport by listening to her new colleagues. In the second one, she tries to build rapport by demonstrating her knowledge of the product and the company. And I'm going to show both of them to you. In class, students can decide which one they want to see first. So just give me a minute to get to the video. Okay. Yes.
That's okay. I was just confused for a moment. Nice to meet you.
You too. I hear you lived in Tokyo. Where exactly did you live?
Suidobashi. Do you know it?
Yes, near the baseball park.
Oh.
I lived there myself for a while. Loved it. How long were you in Japan for?
5 years. When were you in Tokyo?
2013 to 2015. About 18 months.
What did you do there?
Teaching English, mainly.
Ah, teaching. Interesting. What did you like best about it?
Mainly the food.
This is Jessica Scott. She's our CEO.
Hello, Miss Scott. Beata Kowalska. Nice to meet you.
Please, call me Jessica. I hear you worked with one of our main competitors in Tokyo.
You mean Medilink?
You must have learned a lot while you were there.
Absolutely. But I'm very keen to learn even more here.
Well, you're going to be working with a great team. Daniel and Alex really know their stuff. How about we chat in a couple of weeks' time to touch base?
Sounds great. Thank you, Jessica.
Nice to have you on board. I was very impressed with Beata. Confident, but not arrogant. Just the right balance.
Beata made a great first impression. I'm sure she and Alex will have lots of Tokyo stories to share. And even Jessica liked her.
Okay, so that's option one. We're now going to go to the second one. Okay.
Right. So, I'm working on the diop sensor project, yes? What will I be doing exactly? Hello, Miss Scott. Beata Kowalska. Very nice to meet you. Let me tell you about myself. I have lots of experience working in project management and have recently completed an internship in another medical supplies company in Japan, Medilink. I'm sure you know it?
I'm aware of our biggest competitor, yes.
How is the diop sensor project coming along? I'd like to discuss my ideas if possible.
Well, it's probably best if you get to know the product and the company first. Daniel and Alex will look after you for the next few days.
Yes, of course.
Welcome to Evermed. Beata? Honestly, I'm not sure. I love her enthusiasm, but she seemed a little arrogant with it.
Beata meant well, I'm sure. But Jessica didn't respond well to her, which is a shame. Perhaps she needs to work on her communication skills a little more.
Okay, so you see how the two different options show two different ways of doing this. You could write your answers into the box. Richard can perhaps read some to me. How does Beata try to build rapport with Alex or Jessica? And is she successful? Why not? Is there a difference in the two videos?
One suggestion is that asking questions of Alex and finding something in common.
Mm-hmm.
In the first video, the body language and small talk was important.
Yes.
And then with Jessica, showing enthusiasm but not being overboard.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And any ideas about the long-term effect of this, of either option?
And also, sorry, this is going back to the first question that you had.
Mm-hmm.
The second video, she seemed that she wanted the control.
Yes.
Whereas in the first video, she was respecting the personal space.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, exactly.
And then I think in response to your second question, people are saying first impressions matter, they count.
Yes, yes, exactly. And this, in the suggested answers, it does say that in the first video, she will probably be more easily assimilated into the team, and the positive connection with Jessica could lead to benefits in terms of her future career in the company. So after this, after the students have had a chance to watch both, we then have a look at this question. In pairs, discuss what you learned from the two options. I think I can highlight just that. Nope, sorry. Number 4, what did you learn from this? And students would discuss it. And there are many cases where people don't realize the impression they make. They might think that showing how good they are about something can help to establish rapport, and it may have exactly the opposite effect. Okay, and after this, after they have done all of this, we then have a task. The tasks allow students to then use more personalized situations to practice the skills we want them to to learn. So if you take your experience of learning English, that's very personal, or an event you attended, a place you visited or lived in, your last holiday, and to have a conversation and try to build rapport. Obviously, if you say to somebody, oh, I was just in Thailand, and someone said, oh, well, I can't afford to go to Asia, you might have to find a new way to approach it, or to find a way to bring them into the conversation to establish rapport. So we're not looking here at practicing tenses as such. We're looking at ways to get your message across, to understand the other person's view of the world, and to find commonalities, to meet them halfway, which is the main thing that people need in any business conversation. Okay. And then they reflect on it, they talk about it, and think about what they did and what was not so easy to do. So the tasks are very practically based, giving them the chance to practice. Okay. So moving on to the next skill, which is teamwork. We start off with a lead in thinking about teams people have been part of and what challenges there are. And number 2 question is very interesting. How useful or problematic is it to have people in a group or team who are very different to each other, and why? And this is a question that often comes up. People think they want to work with someone they're very much like, and then it could be that they find this doesn't work as well for specific things. They might be missing aspects of an idea. They may be less creative, and so on. And then talking about who people prefer to work with. So it gets them really thinking about what makes a team, not just people working together towards a goal, but the people in the team. And then after they've gone through the A/B videos, they have a look at teams, they go back and reflect, teams they've been part of. How effective is it? Is a team effective? I'm sure everyone here has been on a team at some point or another, and some teams are very effective and some are less effective. And analyzing what it is about that team that makes it work or doesn't make it work or makes it not work is vital. Sometimes these things can be fixed easily, sometimes they take a lot of work, but they are absolutely essential in the workplace. And then advice you could give yourself about how to support a team. A great discussion question for any class. And then we also look at language. So functional language is not the same as the grammar we teach. This is getting things done. So if we take a look at this, number 1, quality should, if anyone wants to type in what it should be. So sure you all got C, quality should be your number one priority, or why don't you? Just try. So giving them these kinds of phrases that they can use, then actually having a small look at, when do we use to plus infinitive, verb plus ing? But then we also look at what sentences are stronger or more direct. And this is also important, depending on the culture you're teaching in. Is this similar to what goes on in your language? Is it very different? How do we give advice? Are we very direct? Do we do it in a different way? What is the communication style of the country you're teaching and living in? And then looking at who you would expect to give you strong advice. And after that, having a look at phrases and looking at working in pairs, using ideas to get all of this across. The functional language can help our students enormously. Okay, and going on, we're going to now have a look at influencing. So we're going to watch a short video in which Paula prepares to present online courses and look at how she describes herself, how Matt describes Pedro, and so on. And after we look at that, we're going to have a look at the influencing styles. Okay. Give me a minute here to get to the video. Just double checking. Yes, it's this. Okay.
I think I'm quite good at influencing people. I'm usually able to make a strong argument backed with good reasoning. We have some potential buyers from a Mexican chain of business schools coming to London this week.
When will they be here?
About 20 minutes. They want to look at partnering with online training and education providers from the UK, and I'll be pitching. I expect to get what I want. I haven't failed yet.
Remember not to be too pushy. Go easy on them.
Stop worrying. I've thought of everything, really. Remember, we've designed this just for them.
I know, but Pedro likes to be involved in decision-making. He's quite a collaborative guy and likes to give input.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
No, exactly.
Hi, Pedro. Great to see you, Susan. Hello. Hi. Do you want to just come straight through here?
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlotte.
Okay. So how does Paula describe herself? Can anyone write down the words she uses? And while you're doing that, you can also say, how does Matt describe Pedro?
Pedro is described as collaborative.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he likes to get involved. And how does Paula describe herself?
Describes herself as sure. That's one answer.
Okay.
And then Pedro likes to be involved in decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro was too involved. And then for Paula, pushy, influencer.
Yeah, she says she's good at influencing. Exactly. And then the third question is a free answer. Do you think her style will be successful with Pedro? If she thinks she's good at influencing, will it be good with somebody who thinks of him or usually comes across as collaborative, and they can discuss that. And then
the
we
first
have
answer, by the way, is no from one suggested answer.
no.
Yeah.
It's very possible that it won't work. And this is what then you go on to see. But having a look at these two influencing styles, oops, okay, I'm just trying to move the panel. We've got push and pull. I think everyone can read this. So push, people influence through their ideas and opinions, listing benefits, and getting the right people to support them. And with pull, they show more empathy and they focus on finding out about others and trying to find consensus. And then having a quick look at the statements below. 2 are push and 2 are pull. Can people just write in the box? If you just say which 2 are pull, then we know which 2 are push.
No answers so far.
No answers. Okay. So I think one is basically offering your opinion and the other one is finding out what others think.
Suggestions are 1 and 4 are pull.
Yes.
Also, somebody else has said 4 is pull as well.
Yes, yes. 1 and 4 are pull. Asking others, tell me more about why that would be difficult. I understand how you feel. Would this work? You're getting the opinions from the others. And in 2 and 3, I think the best thing, I feel we should do this. This is pushing more on someone. 2 different influencing styles. Exactly. Okay, so going on, yes, we would then work in pairs to discuss what lessons they've learned about influencing and the different ideas about ways to influence. There's also been, of course, A/B options, and there's been functional language, or that's coming, but thinking about what you've actually learned through watching the videos and discussing all this, what you've learned about influencing. And then we go to the task, which I think is quite an interesting one because it definitely involves thinking outside the box. So for example, you want your colleague to come to the office with you on Saturday. And the colleague says, but it's the weekend. So you have to come up with ideas to convince the colleague to come to the office. Now, it might be there'll be free ice cream. It might be our boss is going to be there, and this could lead to a promotion. It gives them lots and lots of possibilities of coming up with ideas for doing this. And working on the different push and pull methods lets them practice concepts while actually speaking to each other. So this kind of task is the way this is wrapped up. Okay, and then looking at it, working with another parent, discussing, were you successful? Did you follow steps that had come before? What phrases were useful that were in language that was offered, and so on. Okay. Okay, we're coming on to decision making, and this is a cultural thing. Decisions are made differently in different cultures. So the very first part, I think this, yes. How do people make decisions? And what effective ways do you have for making decisions? Do you give your own opinion first? Do you gather the ideas from the other? Do you go for consensus? Do you say to one person, please decide? And then we have a look at the 2 different cultures for approaching decision making. If you could just read these 2 and then perhaps write into the box if you are more in culture A or culture B. And I'll let everyone just read this for a minute. Any comments?
Yes, we've had one comment which is, I grew up in culture A, but feel more at home in culture B. I've said a mixture of both A and B, and then others have said A and B. What about Marjorie? What do you think you are?
Well, I grew up in culture B. I would say that's very definitely an American thing. I think Austria is a little more culture A, so I probably go between them. And just to summarize them, I would say A goes for consensus building and flexibility, and B is decisive and result oriented. And it also depends on the situation. There are certain things where I will be more culture A and certain things I'll be more culture B. And it may be true for many of us teaching English as a foreign language. That would be interesting to look at. And what about our students? Do our students come from the same culture that we feel we are? So to actually talk about this with your students. Yeah. Okay, so moving on then to the next one. We're going to watch as Stephanie and Paul, you've already met Paula, prepare for a meeting with customers and what happens here. And bear these questions in mind. We'll go back to them, the goal they have, the approaches they want to take, and what problems might come up. So one more video.
Today is a big day for our project. We have some clients coming in who are thinking about making a major purchase for the Mexican market. Paula has responsibility for Mexico, but I'm a bit more experienced, so Matt has asked me to lend her some support. The important thing in these kinds of conversations is to make sure that things keep on moving ahead. I'm keen to keep the focus on our launch date and sticking to the plans that we have between now and then. After that, we can worry about group decisions and small details. I think with the important points, we should use our expertise and let our clients know what's best. Hi, Paula.
Hi, Stephanie.
Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is go over all the dates we have for the next 3 months. Can we start there?
When we're talking about making decisions, I would say that I prefer to try to find consensus. It's a huge project in Mexico. There are so many things to think about. How will we register students? When to register students? What are we going to do about marketing? Are we going to assist with that? We need to ask them all these questions and take decisions together. We can't know everything about everything ourselves. So yes, for me, this meeting is about getting to understand more about how they work. We can think about a launch date later.
Okay, so we'll go back to these questions. So what were the goals that each of them had? If you can just write S or P for Paula. So what does Stephanie want to do? S. And P.
S, we have fixed launch date and keep things moving.
So the details.
And take decisions as soon as possible. P wants to get to know the culture and the background.
Yes. Okay. And does one of them feel that they need to let the client know what they should be doing and the other not?
P wants to help collaborate, etc. Understands the customers. The S is all about deadlines.
Yes. Yeah. So Stephanie is very detailed oriented, very results focused, and Paula is looking more for consensus, looking at the overview, the interpersonal skills, and then what problems do you foresee? Well, we don't really know what the client wants at the moment, but you can imagine this is a free question, so students could have quite a debate about this. In some cultures, this would be perfect. The question is it in the Mexican culture? And that is something that students could talk about and check online, have a look, see what you find out if anyone's had experience in Mexico, and so on. Okay, so we're going to go on to the last of the skills, which is about building relationships. And I cannot stress how important this is in business. I worked in business many years ago in New York, years and years ago, and still have contact with people. The business we did was because we built relationships. This is so important, and I see it every day with corporate clients. Relationships are the foundation of what we're doing and something that we can get across to our learners. So having a look at this, reading comments from two professionals and discussing the questions. There are potential advantages and disadvantages of each style. How important do you think trust building is at work and why? Those would be the beginning things. Is it important? And then having a look at the way people do it. One person says, I trust people fast. I like to be open with people from the beginning and share information. I think focusing on common objectives also helps to build trust quickly and makes a team more efficient. So that's one. You can think about advantages or disadvantages of that. And the second one, I don't really focus on trust at the start. I focus on getting my own job done. Relationships and trust building come later after people prove they're competent and can deliver what the team needs. So if people can just write in, you can put number 1 as trust quickly, number 2 is trust slowly, and then A or D for advantage or disadvantage. We'll see what people come up with.
We've had one, empathetic, trust slowly.
Okay, that empathy is part of trusting slowly, okay?
If problems come up, you might not talk to anyone. If things go well, everything is fine, but you could trust too soon. If it's the wrong person, everything goes down the drain.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, so it sounds like someone else is typing.
1A, more efficient collaboration is possible.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have. That number 1, yeah, it's another one.
2A, focused person.
Okay, I want to leave time for questions at the end. So what I have is basically what people said. For number 1, A is also opening up opportunities. Disadvantage, obviously, trust the wrong person. Trusting slowly. Being an advantage could be making better decisions about people because you know them. And the disadvantage could come across as being selfish if you wait. So this is something that can certainly be discussed. And one last thing here on functional language. Now, it's not the specifics of the language. This is the way to do these things. When we want to focus on common objectives, if we say, let's wait until we have and decide together, what other sentence here has the idea of focusing on common objectives? It's not the same sentence or the same exact meaning, but it's focusing on common objectives. If anyone can type the letter into the box. And there's one word in it that is the clue.
We've had a couple of Bs,
Yeah.
which makes it 2, a
Yes.
6.
Yeah. Yes. We both want to. We both want to, and then do something. This is common objectives. And then the other functional things, sharing ideas, being open about thoughts and feelings. So what about being open about thoughts and feelings? Anything, any ideas there? And first, sorry, frankly, I'm concerned that anything that would be similar.
E is the suggestion for your second question.
Right. Yes, to be honest, I'm a little worried, yes. So this is the kind of language that you need in building relationships. It's not always saying what the other person might want to hear. We also have to be honest about what we anticipate as problems. Okay. And just having a last look here, we're going to have a look at components, what's involved in all of this. So for those interested in finding out more about this, we have a course book that offers digital resources, as well as a course book that offers all the digital resources, so audio, video, online, and my English lab, which is a learning management system, so an LMS, giving more practice. Obviously, a paper workbook allowing more practice, full teacher's resource book with notes and background information, which I always find useful when I teach any business course, being able to look and find out the information that I don't have because I didn't study business. I worked in advertising, which is a very specific field, but there are many other businesses with different needs and different vocabulary. And then Active Teach, which is front of the class software. Okay. And now one last task for those online. It's not just the transferable skills that employers want. They also want these 21st century skills. They want critical thinking, they want communication, they want creativity, and they want collaboration. So where did these appear? You could number them 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you can remember what we've done, you can make a couple of notes, which Richard can read out loud.
There are a couple of people suggesting communication. Creativity has also popped up.
Okay. Did anyone give an example of where?
In group tasks.
Yes, definitely.
Collaboration, when you have culture A and culture B.
Ah, yes.
Critical thinking and making decisions.
Okay.
And then there's somebody suggests an order, which is communication first, critical thinking, collaboration, and then creativity.
Ah, okay. Well, what I thought of was critical thinking, even our first lead in thinking about verbal and nonverbal skills. You have to go beyond just thinking about speaking to somebody. What else are we doing? Are we looking at them? Are we giving signs and so on? Or analyzing the functional language, for me, is also critical thinking. Communication, we had the unit on rapport is very definitely communication and all the tasks which is done in group or pair work. Creativity for me was the influencing task, trying to get your colleague to come to the office with you on a Saturday. You need some really creative ideas there. And of course, collaboration is all of the tasks working together to come up with anything that you are doing to come up with a product together. Okay. So this is what we've done. We talked about transferable skills and why we need to teach them, the challenges we face, the issues specifically in the classroom, and looked at some solutions. And those were the communication skills that we looked at in this particular webinar on building rapport, teamwork, influencing, decision-making, and building relationships, all of which are vitally important for anyone in the workplace. And this is the whole series from A1 up to C2 with several steps along the way, A2 plus A2 plus, B1 plus, B2 plus, and so on. And These are all available or coming very soon, and the others will be as of 2020. And now over to you. Any questions?